Thank you for taking time to come to this how to grow, how to structure your business for growth. It's part of the growth formula series that we're doing every month, and we're even doing it here in the summer. So this is sort of looking at the structure. It's part of the my book, The Firm You Want. It's one of the chapters in it, but we'll be going through this sort of briefly through this webinar. And if you've got questions, just come in at the end, and we'll go through all that. Any questions that you have then. So just a very quick recap, just on the formula, because it's worth knowing the formula. I have mentioned it right at the start. So if you look at our YouTube channel, for intelligent outsourcing, you have I think it was how I nailed Naylor Accountancy Services or the growth formula. Then just have a look at that, and there's more information on it there. But it's the Y plus T plus R plus S, and that's where the Y is you. So that is you. You are the most important thing to get right first. That's why I don't have that within the brackets. Then it's your team. And you is you will talk. You can look at the webinars that they talk more about the you, and what that means is sort of understanding what you want and everything, and more than that as well. The rhythm of the business, which we did last month, so that's in there as well. We did team as well on one of the webinars, and now we're doing the structure of your business. So this is the structure of your business that we'll be going, and we're focusing on the S in this. So this is what we have upcoming. So this is the how to structure the business for growth that we're doing today. Then we've got the 30 ways to fail in August. So just during the holidays, a bit of fun. And then you've got removing your barriers to growth, real life lessons, and attract your clients. So that's our 12-month formula series. So the growth formula series. What we've done already is here. So like I say, we've done the retaining and leading your A team, building your A team, A players, getting yourself set for success, and all this here. So the right rhythm for the business, which was the last one, which is a really one that's really important. Well, they all are, but they're all very important to the business. Now, I always like starting with thought for the day. So this is quite a long quote, but it's: most entrepreneurial types are freewheelers who like to do a variety of things and do not enjoy routine tasks. But a smart entrepreneur will eventually learn that while ideas start businesses, organization makes them successful. That's Larry Burkett. So the whole point of this is, if you're a business owner, which I am, you do like starting things. You don't like just having all the organization and everything, because you just like to do things, and you also like shiny new objects, because this is what I hear from most of the people I know, that they like looking out for something, go down that route, but then they sort of don't carry it on potentially. But the reality of business owners and entrepreneurs is that they need to realize that if they don't have organizational structure, they're never going to realize their dreams, and that's what and achieve them either. So that's what I'm passionate about, helping other business owners, and in your case accounting firms, bookkeeping firms. But it's to look at how you do that, because I had to really step back, work out what I need to do to go forward. So this is the quote that we're going to start. I will talk more into this as we go through the business, this webinar. Why invest your time in me? I have said this every single webinar. I'll go through it very quickly, but I am the MD for an accountancy firm since 2011. It was like December 2011. Naylor Accountancy Services, I do 2 days a week in that. At the moment, there's a few things happening, so I'm doing a little bit more. Started Intelligent Outsourcing in 2016, which is based in the Philippines, and we've grown that to over 100 team members, and we've got 3 locations out in the Philippines. And I'm also the author of The Firm You Want, which you can get on Kindle or Amazon. And if you're at Accountex, we normally give that out at Accountex for free as well. Agenda. So just so you know what we're going to be talking about, so how to create the systems and procedures for growth. Then we're going to talk about the 10 functions of your business and why they're vital. And then the third thing we're going to be talking about is how to structure your business for growth around the 10 functions. So it's just looking at these three key areas within it. So another quote, and I do love quotes, so I apologize. There's no shortage of remarkable ideas. What's missing is the will to execute them. That's Seth Godin. There's loads on Seth Godin if you look out there in the ether, especially on YouTube and podcasts. So the vital thing is you must have is like the will to organize in a way that can turn your ideas into reality, and that's the key here. So it's great to have all these ideas and dreams, but you need to have especially if you're accounting bookkeeping firm, you need to have it all mapped out, like the procedures and organization systems, and have an organizational chart that can take things forward. So if you want to have a team of 20, it's not a matter of just buying in the talent of 20 team members and having the sales there. You need to know how to structure it so you deliver good quality services and at the same time able to control it and manage it all. Not necessarily you, but people within that organization. And that will deliver you and help you succeed. How to create the systems and procedures. We're going to just split this into 2 steps. So it involves systems and procedures. It also involves organizing the various roles and assigning people to those different systems and procedures and getting a team member to deliver as well, and the following system and procedure. The big thing is that you must do both. You have to have a defined system and procedures to make someone responsible for ensuring that they follow up on the results to, so that you get them, achieved. So you need those results achieved. So let's start with systems and procedures. So you got to, so the 2 steps are systems and procedures, and the second one is getting team members to deliver through the systems, basically. So Peter Drucker says, great systems and procedures are the backbone of any successful business. Peter Drucker is very famous on business writing. There's lots out there with him, but this is why we need to start with systems and procedures. Now, it's important to define what a system is, as it highlights its importance. So a business system is a set of principles, practices and procedures applied to specific activities to achieve a specific result. So if, within an accountancy and bookkeeping firm, most of that will be done by doing it repeatedly. So you've got your VAT returns, you've got your onboarding of clients, we'll go into this in more detail, you've got year-end accounts, bookkeeping, VAT, whatever it is, the payroll. So you must ensure that everyone is basically doing their jobs consistently, so to the same standard and same procedure. That's why you want to standardize everything, because if everyone's doing it differently, they may miss things out, and then what you've got is an issue when somebody's away, because somebody can't just pick up the work, or if they leave as well, you've got the same problem. The only way you can sort of ensure that everything is homogenized and people can come in and out as well is to systemize the procedures so that the team have to follow the same standard way of doing things. And that's the same, like I've said, for VAT, year-end accounts, self-assessment, onboarding, whatever it is that you have to do, bookkeeping, whatever it is within your firm. Now, writing up your processes and can be a pain, but there's easy ways to do it and there's tips to do it if you haven't got them. So, but they must be written up and improved on constantly. So when you have something going wrong or whatever, you'd want to be looking at it. We'll talk about this in more detail later on. But everyone in the team who needs to do the procedure must have access to the write-up. So they need to be able to access it. We use suite process within Naylor Accountancy Services and Intelligent Outsourcing. So we have suite processes, but people use Microsoft Word. So you have a shared file that everybody can get to within Word, and then you just have the different folders for the different tasks like VAT, bookkeeping, year-end, self-assessments. So you have all that, or whatever, onboarding, whatever that is. And then people should be able to update them when that's required. You might have to have some sign off if you wish, but that with Suite Process there is a sign off automatically, so there is a manager that would sign that off. In Word, you may have to look at something else to do there. So we will talk more into this, some of the things that help within this process and procedures, but there are many ways to do it. So the benefits of well-defined system process, we'll go through them, but defining the systems and process may seem like a lot of work because you've actually got to write them up, but it pays dividends, and it does that very quickly. And you can actually, once you've written it up, you don't have to normally change much. It's just the odd bits. Obviously, if there's big changes in the way you have to do VAT or something because the whole HMRC's changed, what you need to do, you need to change that as well, or you've changed systems that you're doing your accounting on. So like moving from tax calc to IRIS or IRIS tax calc, whatever it is that you're doing there. So there are three main benefits basically for a well-defined systems and process to give you a system. So they basically give you critical components of any business and provide you the structure and consistency basically of clarity in that operation. So, and it's defining and documenting procedures of the business, basically in ordering that team members understand their roles and responsibilities, and the key there is roles and responsibilities as well as the process, so they know what they are, and it achieves more effectiveness and efficiencies. Now on all this, you want to be looking at how you can improve things all the time, so there may be efficiencies that people may come up with, so you don't want them just doing it because it's been done for years that a certain way. You want them to be able to look at what they're doing and increase their effectiveness and efficiency of it as well. And it does help with complexity. So I've just created a procedure for doing these webinars because last time I did one, it was for the Nail Accountancy Services. I couldn't get the camera working, and it's because I didn't follow a certain procedure which I hadn't appreciated I had to follow because we're using a new system so that the quality of our recording's better. So there's things that I need to be doing that I will have in a system and a procedure so that I know that I can do that next time. So we started this webinar an hour early just to make sure that we were doing it all right, and then with doing that I recorded what we did, and then I'll be creating that procedure at the back of that and also have a recording of it as well. So that's how I've just done it today basically. But it is very key having a well-defined system and procedure because it does help create consistent level of service and quality of delivery, and that's with anything like your VAT, your year-end accounts, your self-assessments. You want that quality to be consistent, and you don't want things to be gone missing or forgotten. And if something is forgotten and you've got a defined procedure and the system, then that's the learning point for the person who's got it wrong, and they've also need to make sure they don't do that again because they shouldn't be doing that. And it can have a reputational issue as well. But it can also lead to increased customer satisfaction and loyalty because you're getting good quality service all the way through and output. So another advantage, the third one, of having systems and procedures in place is that you can help to minimize errors and mistakes. So now that is critical. So with me just on this webinar, I don't want to be starting all the time an hour early. I'd love to start half an hour earlier with this new system, but I can't do that until I know it's working smoothly. Once I've got the system in place, I know what it is, because I do 2 a month, but when it's a new system, it's not just using Zoom, it's using something else, because the quality of the Zoom recording isn't as good. So that's for our YouTube channel basically. So that's, I need to make sure I get that quality going and it minimizes the errors and mistakes. So I don't want to be having those errors every time that I'm not sure how to get that camera working. And you've got the likelihood of that year-end accounts, VAT, payroll and everything like that. You want those steps set out. So if you want to keep your business performing on target, basically it's essential to update systems and procedures when issues and mistakes occur, which is what I was just talking about. And that allows your team members to learn from mistakes, and everybody learns more from mistakes than doing things correctly. Once you make a mistake, or everyone does, you look at it, you would IDS it, so you look at the issue, discuss it, and create a solution for it. Put that in place, that solution in your systems and procedures. You put that in. We have that called Project Perfect, and that's in Naylor Accountancy Services and Intelligent Outsourcing, but especially Naylor Accountancy Services within the compliance work that we do, and onboarding on VAT, payroll, VAT, self-assessment, all that. And what that means is that, and even just emails out with information that's going to our clients. So what we do is we will look at the mistake, write it up. We all see that in our leadership meeting, and then we'll look at what the solution was, make sure that's all updated in the procedures, and then we have a document of how many Project Perfect items we have. Make sure everyone in the team knows the new process and procedure, so that filters down to the team. This is the team in the Philippines that tend to be doing the compliance work, so apart from a few very complicated ones, so they will be doing that. Patrick will be making sure that they all understand what's happening, and it's all updated. So make sure this is done on a regular basis. You don't have to call it Project Perfect, but make sure that any issues are documented, so you see what they are, and then discussed, and then a solution's created. And these could be tiny things. Ours tend to be tiny, but it's like the 1%. You just want to create a better effectiveness and resolution to everything. So before we go through basically the various systems, you should have it in place. It's also important to stress that these should be recorded by your team for your review and correction. So they would do it and then you would review it, or you have someone else to review it if you've got a manager there. You don't need to map them all out yourself. And this is one thing I see within partners coming on to intelligent outsourcing. They get really worried they haven't got all their systems in place, written up, and procedures. And what we say is, don't worry about that. Get your team member, offshore team member in the Philippines with intelligent outsourcing, get them to write it all up by recording it whilst you are training them, or somebody else is training them in the process and procedure, and then they write it up, and then they put it on whatever system you have, your Word documents, your suite process, or whatever, and you also have a recording. I've got a tip which I'll go through in a bit on that as well. So the key processes that you should have are basically, for an accounting and bookkeeping firm, are onboarding. I've mentioned that. So this is so you make sure you've got a proper system going through. You have a tick system so you don't forget anything. Make sure you get all your KYC or your AML, anti-money laundering, so all that's sorted. And make sure everything is done, and then the client's onboarded with whatever you do or information you give a new onboarding client. So have that. We have our admin team in the Philippines do all this, so they will onboard it, make sure all the HMRC agent codes are done and everything, company's house agent ID codes, so we are all agents and everything. They'll make sure all that happens, and they've got it all ticked off, and they'll constantly be reviewing it to make sure we get everything back, so they won't stop it and sign it off, that role, that job, until that's there. And that's all through the suite process, all the procedures that we have. Pricing system. Now, we do have a pricing system which is Go Proposal. There's other ones out there, so you have a pricing system but have that all written up, what you use and what you do and how you do it and who's doing it as well, so you've got the responsibilities there. Then there's the sales system. Now, sales system, I would not go into too much detail, but I'd very much recommend you read or listen to James Ashford's book, Selling to Serve, Breakthrough Sales System for Accountants, by James Ashford. So it's a great sales system. I'm not going to talk into it much here, but I would definitely recommend that book. And it was just, a new edition was just done, I believe, last year, and it's totally different from the original book. It's almost like a separate book, and there's a lot more in there. Billing systems. So you must make sure you have a billing system and it's not forgotten, because what I've found with acquisition that I have done, the first one, is they weren't billing, and they were doing all the work, getting stressed and everything, but they weren't billing. So you need to have a billing system. Make sure it's all tidy and everything. If you use Xero, QuickBooks, whatever it is that you Sage potentially, make sure it's all going out as soon as you finish the work, if you're doing it that way, or every month on a repeating invoice, which is how we tend to do most things in Naylor Accountancy Services. a debtor system. Now that we have a monthly meeting for that, but have a system in place so that you get chasers going out to all of your clients who aren't paying you on time and reminding them of the payment, and then have a way of either setting them up on direct debit, or if you're doing standing orders, make sure it's all set up so that and you're chasing, or somebody is within this system, so you have it all ticked off. So we did have a debtors issue a few years back, so we put a massive debtor system in place, got somebody responsible for it, and now we don't. You obviously have a few issues when people aren't able to pay, but on the whole, we don't have that issue anymore. Workflow systems. So that's basically how you do all the tasks and going through and making sure everyone's doing it. So that should be in your Word document, suite process, or whatever. And then KPI system. Now, KPIs, I'm not going to go into too much detail because there's another amazing book for bookkeepers and accountancy firm, and that is Banish the Bottleneck, the 7 Savvy Steps to Grow the Almost Perfect Team for Your Accountancy Practice. And that's by Simon Chaplin. Now, that's on Kindle and Amazon, and so it's worth doing an audiobook, so it's worth looking at that as well. I really thoroughly recommend that. Customer service, so make sure that you have that and you've got something in place. Now, I'm not going to go into the next one much details, but you need systems and processes written up for year-end accounts, VAT, self-assessment, management accounts, payroll, and CIS system, whatever else it is that you do services in. They need to only be simple, but there needs to be something there. And ideally, you want to have the systems run the business and the team run the systems. So the systems run the business and the team run the systems. What that means is anybody can come in, look at the systems and run it, obviously with some knowledge of accounting and bookkeeping, and then they can run it. I have got a tip here just on the systems that has just come up recently with someone I know, and what we were doing is getting people to record it, transcribe it in Teams, and then create it in ChatGPT, or before ChatGPT we were just getting them to write it out, so that then it was reviewed by the person that had trained them to make sure it's all okay. But now you can do the ChatGPT bit, the transcribe in Teams, but there's another one, which is if you use Loom, get the AI bit on it, record the process yourself, doing it with the person that you're going to train, or just do it yourself, or get somebody to do it who's doing the task now and talk through it, and then as it's transcribe it and all, then ask it to create at the end a procedure. It creates a procedure and a system and even a diagram of it. It looks amazing. But that's with the AI. It's an extra £5 a month or something, I believe. I have no idea because I don't have Loom, but this is a big we're going to be looking at it, but we don't have it available on AI yet at the moment. So that's something we're looking at, the AI on Loom. So that's a tip that just came in from when I was on holiday last week that somebody had in one of the WhatsApp groups I'm in. The 10 functions that have to be done in any business to grow and sort of just be successful. This is true for all businesses, and many companies struggle to this as they specialize in sales and delivery and forget about the other things that have to be done by businesses basically to grow and succeed. And if you are a sole business owner, a trader, whatever, and it's your own business, so you're the sole partner, then you may be doing all of these. And the idea is that you want to be growing to offload and delegate these responsibilities to other people, but we'll talk about into that more. So another Peter Drucker quote: "The best way to predict the future is to create it." And the idea here is that you can predict the success of a business by ensuring that the 10 functions are done properly. And by doing that, you complete the accountants. You sort of, action leads to creation, and that's, if without that action, you must do that action. So something has to happen, and it creates sort of a happy customer and a high performing team. So each function is vital and adds forward direction in the business. So let's go through those now. So we're going to talk into these again, just in the structure of it, the organization, but you've got the start, which are the 10 functions. Shareholder, the person who owns the business is the shareholder. You may be that shareholder if you're a limited company as well. And remember that you should pay yourself, the primary leader, if you are the shareholder as well, that you actually will be the next level, which is the CEO MD. You need to pay yourself part of the profit out in share, there in the dividends through the shares. So that is the big top one. Then you've got director and visionary. Now this is the strategic role. So the director here, it's basically to create the vision and set the strategic direction basically, and it does include non-executives if you have those and you're a lot bigger. And we use it to create that annual way forward, which we do at the start of each year, and a 10-year vision, 1 year and 3-year plan. We talked about that in the last webinar that we did with the rhythm of the business. So if you want to look more into that, look there. Then you have your primary leader, which is like your CEO, MD. Now you could be all of these at the moment, and at some point you may not be, but you will be at the moment if you are the sole partner in the business. Service product development, again, that is a way your team work on developing new products and services to existing or new clients basically. Again, this may be you. Operations, that's the doing of it, so that's delivering and doing the actual work itself, so the VAT returns, the self-assessments, year-end accounts, whatever that is that you do in bookkeeping. Then you've got your marketing, so that's makes the sales possible, and you need to let potential new clients know that you exist and how you can help them basically. Then you've got the sales, and that's the vital part of any business, and as a business owner you probably do that. So that's having that sales meeting with your potential client, and then getting them over the line, sending them a proposal and everything through the sales system. And you need some sales and marketing for anything to happen basically. You do get referrals, but you still have to speak to those people that are getting referred to you, and that's the sales. Finance, so you always need to be looking at that. If you're finance accounting or bookkeeping firm owner, you will have this in your bag already. So it's a range of functions, financial, so making sure you've got your P&L, everything's working, you're in forecast, whatever that is, and your debtors and everything there as well, you'd be in there, and your creditors. HR, so that's vital for recruitment and managing your team members, so that is something you may just be doing, and the bigger you are, you'll have a team there. And admin IT, that might be outsourced basically, especially the IT, so you might have an IT provider, so they're vital and definitely can't be neglected, IT, because you're either on Office 365 or Google Suites or whatever it is. We are on Office 365 and I love it because it's all in one. And they keep developing it all the time. So these are the 10 functions of the business. Another quote. So here is, the price of greatness is responsibility. Now I do this quote right now before we move into the next one, because it's vital for someone to be responsible for getting these functions completed. That someone might be you for all of those. So we wear all 10 hats, especially at the start of any business. And the idea is that if you are wanting to grow and you want to get more time yourself and actually focus on what you want to do rather than all these 10 things, you want to be giving those hats to other people. It might be offshoring, outsourcing things, or it might be bringing people in as well. But you need to be having a plan to what you do there. So having that functional responsibility, but it doesn't mean the person who's got the functional responsibility has to do that job, because that can be delegated to somebody else or outsourced or offshored, but there needs to be somebody who's responsible somewhere within your business, because the ultimate responsibility of your task goes to that person, so they make sure it's happening. That is probably all you at the moment. If you are the sole owner and you've not got a big team, that probably is all you. The old saying is true, basically, if you want someone to blame, then look in the mirror. So you always take responsibility. Whoever is responsible for that function is responsible. However, you as business owner are ultimately responsible for everything, but you want them to be responsible for that function. and learn from any mistakes. So here we looked at the 10 function, and now here's just how to structure these 10 functions. Another quote, so this is by Pearl Zhu. An organizational structure carries inherent capabilities as to what can be achieved within its frame. So it is, the one thing I realized was, and I didn't have the ability to do it, but was that if you didn't have the structure there, I wasn't able, you can't grow your business to what you want. So I realized that, and I knew I had to do something about it in order to create the business I wanted, but I didn't have the resource and the talent in the UK to be able to do what I needed to do within Naylor Accountancy Services. I did in the Philippines, but not in the UK. So I had to do something in order to do that, in order to make that happen. So I did have to make a conscious effort to have the end in mind, to have a strategy that allowed me to create that. So let's just have a look at the effective business structure. Now this is the whole of that structure. So we can basically start above the strategy line here. So that's the shareholders. I mean, they want a dividend, they want a return for their investment. And then you've got the directors, which set that vision and goals. So we've talked about that. And as I said, we do a 10-year with a Naylor Accountancy Services leadership team and our Intelligent Outsourcing leadership team every year, set that direction, and every quarter we review it as well, making sure that we're on track and what we need to do to get back on track. Below the line operations, this is what actually is happening to make sure that everything gets delivered. You've got your primary leader, your CEO, MD. So they're the primary leader. And then you've got leaders below that primary leader who will be ending up doing whatever's required. That primary leader could be the same as the director. So the director is like the visionary, which is what I'm acting as, the visionary for Naylor Accountancy Service and Intelligent Outsourcing. Then I have a number 2 in each one, which is my MD and stuff. I am MD CEO, but I have number 2s in Naylor Accountancy Services and Intelligent Outsourcing that take on that role as well, and the primary leader. So within each of the functions, you should be delegating these to somebody, whoever that is. These could be all you. So this person here with the 10 hats on, that could be you. So you may have all these functions on you. If you want to get the 3 freedoms, like time, so time to do what you want to be doing, inside or outside works, you might prefer doing strategy and you're in the doing. If you in the, so you need to maybe offshore or get resource in, talent in the UK. If you want finance, you need to make more sales and more profit. You need to be looking at how to do that as well, and that means you need to be moving and growing. And then there's also the headache, so the mind freedom. By giving somebody else responsibility and delegating some of these, you get rid of some of that headache and that mind freedom. You give yourself mind freedom because you know somebody else is looking at it and is responsible for it. So the whole point of delegation isn't abdication, it's delegating the task so that that person knows what they need to do in order to get that done, and any issues they will deal with. They'll bring it up in your leadership meeting, so look at the rhythm of the business for all that, and then what happens is that they will ultimately make sure that that is going through all the solutions that you sort of come up with, or they've come up with to drive that. You don't need to do that, they should be doing that. But be aware that one person can have more than one function, and you'll find that, especially at the start, that you may have all 10 and then you can give one away. So the IT one, outsource that to an IT firm. Admin, you might have someone that you can bring in, or offshore, or whatever, PA. Then you might have HR that you can outsource as well. If you're big enough, you bring it in-house. And then marketing and stuff, you might do that outsource as well. And then you can always bring everything in-house the bigger you are. And then the services, the product services, you can outsource offshore. You can offshore with Intelligent Outsourcing. You can do whatever you want internally, but you give somebody else that ability to look after that within the UK or Canada, wherever you are. So you get that person doing that. Operational delivery. Now that is something, like I say, that can be done outsourced offshore on land, but can have somebody within your operation that is in charge of it and not you, so they take that responsibility. And this product, service, and development, you may be developing that more than anybody, but eventually you might have somebody that can develop that as well. If you are the business owner, the ones that you tend to leave till right at the end tend to be sales, product, and product development. Those are the two that you tend to have right in the end. And you might keep finance because you bookkeeping or accounting firm, so you might keep those three until the bitter end, and then you might be able to let go of those at some point. So organizations which design systems that are effective are those that are able to attract and retain the best employees. I say team members, not employees, but this is the quote. So that's by W. Edwards Deming. And this is one of the key secrets basically to growing a business, and what's happened within Naylor Accountancy Service Intelligent Outsourcing. You have that organizational structure, and what that means is that you've got that growth formula series that I've talked about. You've got that structure. That is the S, is the last thing in that formula. With that structure, I know that if somebody leaves, I can fill it easily with someone else, and nothing's going to change massively. Even though I'll be sad anyone leaves, I know that can happen. That's in both Naylor Accountancy Services and Intelligent House. I don't want people leaving, but if they do, I know we have the systems and procedures there, and we've got the structure to enable us just to come back together and then come out again once that new person is all onboarded and in place. So it is key to developing your business and keeping it going, ticking over. If you don't want to grow, it's still key to that. If you want to grow, it's more than important, because you need that, otherwise you're not going to be able to sustain your growth, because you're not going to be able to deliver your services. So you know now, so we're coming to the end, so this is good, we're basically on time. So you know how to create the system and procedure for growth, the 10 functions of the business, so we talked about those in like the 10 hats of any business, and then how to structure your business and grow from those functions. So these are sort of the 3 areas that we've just covered basically. So what next? What's your next step? So when any of these, I should have said at the start, always write at least 1 to 3 things down. You should have at least one thing down from this that you can actually look at into more or take action on. So the first step is just put your team member's name on an organizational chart against each function. So put those functions up and then put a team member against it who is currently doing it, and that might be your name on everything, but put that on. And then start writing down procedures and systems that you're looking at to review. And like I say, you can use the Loom video with AI tip, or you can actually do video on Teams and do the transcribe, and then you put it into ChatGPT to create a procedure on that. Just ask it to once you've got all the stuff in there. And it's but when you've got those names as well, just going backwards on the organizational chart, if it is you on there, think of who you could put in there instead of you, who you could delegate it, of who you have already within your business, your organization. So see if you can, and then think about what is the first thing I would delegate if you're not, by creating a new role for someone, or bringing somebody in, or outsourcing, offshoring, whatever that is. But I just strongly recommend that you start to build your team so you can delegate, and that's thinking like with the end in mind. So just thinking what you need to be doing to get there. Even if you're not there now, what do I need in order to do that? So you know, admin function, how can you delegate that? Operationals, just whatever can free up your team and you in order to focus on what is more important to you. Like it might be the sales, like bringing in clients. It might be customer service, it might be whatever that is, what you want to do, or strategy. So for me, it's the strategic thinking. That's what I enjoy doing, and the visionary of how to move it all forward and grow in both businesses. And what happened within Naylor Accountancy Services, I did it by building a team in the Philippines, so an offshore team doing all the operational work, so the compliance work, bookkeeping, and then getting a team in the UK that can do they are speaking to clients out there, so they're emailing them and they are asking them questions and even speaking to them on the phone. But in the UK, they do their annual reviews with all our clients, and their clients, they assigned a client manager, every client in the UK, and also a focal point in the Philippines, in the offshore team. So that's how we've structured it, and it means that we're able to have growth, and we can create those pods easily once as we grow, basically. And having the delegation and the process and procedure just means that VAT accounts, self-assessment, everything's done, management accounts, all done the same. The other beauty of it is, if you are looking at that finance mindset, is that by offshoring, it does minimize the cost associated with it and the risk. So the risk is on someone else to do that, creating an offshore team in the Philippines with intelligence or whoever else does that give you that, or outsourcing the work. Outsourcing work's different to offshoring a team. So that's the next steps that you could be looking at. Now, going to be opening up to some questions. So I'm just going to have a glass of water, but if you've got any questions, please do pop them in the actual here so that I can answer them. See if I can see them. So please do just pop them in the Q&A or the chat. Just going to have a quick drink. So I've got a question here. I do not currently have a team to delegate the functions to. How can I start to do this? So I've sort of mentioned that I didn't have the ability to do this within Nail Accountancy Services, to delegate a lot of things. So I was actually doing the doing, and it actually got quite bad at one point, in that I was focusing all my time on Nail Accountancy Servicing and virtually nothing in intelligent outsourcing. So because I was having to make sure I was doing all the client relationships and everything in Nail Accountancy Services, and I couldn't do anything in intelligent outsourcing. What I did was to think of the Stephen Covey 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Do the start with end in mind. So look at what you need to do to get that. So that might be having more sales, or if you've got good profit, it might be getting some talent in. So you might need to get that talent in. For me, it was I didn't have enough sales to warrant getting somebody in to actually do the things that I needed to do, like client management, having the client meetings in the UK or with somebody here with the clients. So what I had to do was increase sales. This was during COVID though, so we actually lost about £60,000 of fees. I had to unfortunately make some redundant because all of a sudden I lost 60 grand. So what I looked at doing is getting someone a big load of revenue in by doing an acquisition. So I did an acquisition in April 21. Now it was very painful, and if you want to read my book, The Firm You Want, there's lots of stories in there. And the reason for doing it though was to bring in the talent, because they had the talent in there. They had client managers, and they also had the partner of the business who was going to stay at least 1 year, maybe 2. And maybe I was trying to get them to stay because they were a good accountant. There was other issues which you can go on in the book. But what happened was that, but they had the revenue. So I bought the revenue stream. So I knew the revenue stream was going to not only pay for them, and then also is going to help with giving a profit. So I knew I had the revenue stream because we had the offshore in there as well. So we'd get the compliance done in the Philippines. So we had the structure there to do it. The only issue I had was that I had 3 client managers then leave, 2 client managers would leave within 3 months. So then I was under a lot of pressure within Nail Accountancy Services because I had to get that in. I had a lot of people in intelligent outsourcing come to help, like in the leadership team there, to make sure that we could get their work done, because everything was backloaded in this acquisition. So everyone was, year ends were 12 months after year end because they were extended everybody. So there was lots of issues there. But what happened is we brought new client managers in. Then the partner left after 6 months. So suddenly I was working from 4:30 in the morning reviewing accounts, which I wanted to stop doing, to doing loads in nail accountancy service, all the meetings with the new clients as well as old clients. So I was working so many hours to get this done. But once I got the new client managers in the UK, because I had the revenue there from the acquisition, I got 2 new guys in, and then that actually freed up my time once everything settled down. We had the team in the Philippines that were doing the compliance, and then I was able to step back to the 2 days and then look at the intelligent outsourcing in more detail, as well as Naylor in a visionary way. And then we've grown since then, so we did another acquisition. But it's looking at what you want. You may not want the acquisition, you might want sales, or you might be looking at how you can do it by offshore and outsourcing something. But have a look at what you can do in those functions and the names. Put your names in. I'm sure it's you probably at the start if you don't have the team members to delegate to, and then think, what can I do? Do what you call, talk about the issues you want to delegate, and then look at how you could do that, what you need to do. Do you need more income so that you can actually afford somebody and still get a living from your business? Are you happy to go down in income for a whilst it goes back up? But you might need to do, that's what I had to do. I had to go down in income before I came back up. But that's something that you will have to look at there. I hope that helps. But that's how I've looked at it. But always think of the end in mind, and then think about what you want as well, which is why I always start with the you and the growth formula. And then, because if you don't want to grow, you might be happy doing all that and outsourcing, offshoring some of the functions within there. But you need to put all the procedures in place as well, and systems. Any other questions? That was quite a long answer, I apologize. So my processes are currently not all written up. I do not have time to do it. Why do I need it? Now, you don't need it. If it's just you doing it, if you're a sole person, then are you just doing it? It's fine because you're doing it your way and everything. The difficulty there is that if you want someone else to come in, they don't know what you're doing. But once you do have somebody else coming in, you can do the recording, like I said, in Teams or Loom, get it all transcribed at the same time, and then get ChatGPT or Loom AI just to put it into a procedure, and then you've got it all there. So you only need to do it one bit at a time. If you've got time, or your team have time, get them to do it. Just the recording and the transcribe is so much easier now. We used to say to everybody in intelligent outsourcing when they got a new person, don't worry about having everything written out, just train them in it, you or whoever it is training them, the person in it, train them in it, get it recorded, and then get them to write down the notes, and then they write the procedure that get reviewed by the person who trained them to make sure it's all correct. So we used to do that, but now there are easier ways of doing it, using AI basically. But that I hope that makes sense. So you don't have to do it if it's just you. I would do it just because it standardizes everything. It allows you, if somebody leaves, not to have a big issue of not having the process in place. Because if it is you and someone else, they might be doing the VAT returns, you haven't done one for 4 years or whatever, they leave, you don't really know how they've done it. So you want to make sure it's all written up. Also make sure it gets updated all the time. So whoever has access to it, everybody should have access to it. They should be allowed to change it as well, and update it, or maybe have procedures in place like sign off of any changes. So we have that Project Perfect as well once they are signed up, so anything that is an issue, so look at that as well. But you don't have to write them up initially, but it's definitely worth doing it in the future, when you do need that, because otherwise you won't be able to do much after that. Any other questions? Do put them in. I've got just here, what other books you recommended again? So what are the books I recommended? So I'd recommend my book, obviously, if you want. It doesn't have the growth formula in it. It has the components of it. So the growth formula is going to be in a separate book, a small book that I will write. I was going to write it this year, but it'll more likely be next year now. There's too much other strategic stuff happening in 2024. But within the sales systems, that I recommended Selling to Serve, the breakthrough sales system for accountants, and that was by James Ashford, of course. What I said was there was a second edition that came out last year, I believe it was last year, And that edition is very different from the first one. So even if you read the first one, read it again or listen to it on audio, which is what I love doing, and having the book as well. So do that. It's definitely worth. There's so much in there for any bookkeeper or accountant. On KPI systems, there's the Banish the Bottlenecks by Simon Chaplin, which is subtitled The 7 Savvy Steps of Growing an Almost Perfect Team for Your Accountancy Practice. Now that's got loads of ideas for KPI systems. So it's definitely, those two books are really directed at accounting bookkeeping firms. So that's James Ashford and Simon Chaplin's books. Look at them on Amazon. They're both on there. So don't worry. Just type them in there. They're not that expensive either. So any other questions? So just you might, if you are interested in offshore and outsourcing, you might want to know the difference between outsourcing and offshoring. Now we have got a whole YouTube video on that, so a webinar on it, so you can look at that on our Intelligent Outsourcing YouTube channel. But what I'd say is, very quickly, on the outsourcing, that's where you just give the work to an outsourcer. They do it, and task and processes doing their ways and systems, and then they provide the work back to you. And then with the offshoring, you create a team that you have that uses your systems and processes, and they can actually talk to clients as well and email them and everything like that, which means they are a de facto team member of your whole team. And it eases recruitment, improves business performance, cost reductions, improve quality of service, and just increases efficiency. And that's what we found in Naylor Accountancy Services, but that's what it is there. And it also does HR stuff. So that's one thing. But like I say, if you think it's not for you offshore, and that's absolutely fine. But there is a webinar on it. You know, what's the difference between outsourcing and offshoring? And it's on. It's only, I think it's, you know, it's on YouTube. But you can also have a meeting with our partnership team. You can always book that, and then they can talk to you more about it as well. So that, for Intelligent Outsourcing. Any more questions before we move on? I don't believe there are. So I'm gonna move on now, just to move on. So I mean, I'm talking about finding talent. We have a whole thing about that, but you know, Intelligent Outsourcing can help you find talent, obviously in the production side of your accounts, or admin as well. If you want a free copy, not free, but if you want a copy of my book, The Bestseller, it is available on Amazon and Kindle. If you are going to Accountex North, come to our, or if it's you've seen this any time in the years going ahead, if you go to an Accountex, we'll always be giving away the firm you want. So that will be at September 24's Accountex up in Manchester that will be giving that away. And it's a new version from the one last year. There's a few more pictures in and stuff, because I love #Hamster, if you haven't noticed. So these are up and coming ones, so do join us in the next ones. The 30 Ways to Fail, that's on the 27th of August. You can always watch the YouTube video. I've put it in between my trip to see my my mother and family in Denmark, so that's there. As I get back, so we'll be doing that, because we're wanting to do one every month. That's the idea in Naylor Accountancy Service and Intelligent Outsourcing. And just here, the next ones here. So if you want to look at these, they will be on our website. They will be on our Intelligent Outsourcing website, LinkedIn page as well, and they'll be on mine as well, Nikolai Naylor LinkedIn as well. If you want to know more about offshoring, which is what the Intelligent Outsourcing does, creating offshore accounting bookkeeping teams for our partners, then do send us an email or direct message me on LinkedIn. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having the time with us, and I look forward to the next month. Take care. Bye.